welcome back to another video. Last video we did bread, and if you haven't already, go see it. If you haven't already, subscribe and smash that like button. And let's get into the video.
Today we're going to be making fudgy brownies. It's perfect for a rainy, cold day like today. So what we need is a half a cup of butter melted. A half a cup is one whole stick. So one whole stick of butter melted. And then we're going to add a half a cup of cocoa powder. Now I like to use dark chocolate cocoa powder, but you can use regular, whatever you like. I just think that it makes the flavor of the brownies really rich. Okay, so we're going to add a half a cup of cocoa powder. We're going to add a whole cup of sugar, just regular sugar. If you like your brownies more sweet, you could add a little bit more, maybe a quarter of a cup. I don't want them to be too sweet, so I think a cup is just right. Okay, then you're going to mix those together. You don't need a mixer. You can just do this with a whisk or a fork, or I'm just using a rubber scraper. Okay, so whatever you want. It'll get really chocolatey looking, and you'll want to eat it right now. Don't do that. Just be patient. Okay, as soon as you get that mixed together, just so that it's all incorporated, you're going to add 2 eggs. You're going to add your eggs one at a time, okay? So sometimes the recipe will ask for room temperature eggs. In this recipe, it doesn't matter. You can take them right out of the fridge, okay? The reason some recipes ask for room temperature eggs is because sometimes ingredients do not do well with sudden temperature changes. So it's better if you can have everything the same temperature, more or less. That's why sometimes they ask for room temperature butter, room temperature eggs, okay, things like that. In this case, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now we can add our second egg. Okay, and while you're mixing that in, tell us, AC Valley, what you've been making for dinner these days, okay? I challenge you to, in the comments, tell us what you've been making for dinner, if you've made anything special with your family, to kind of taking the load off your mom or your dad or whoever normally does the cooking. Maybe you're doing something special for them. Tell us all about it. All right, so we have our 2 eggs in. Now we're going to add our vanilla. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, that's all you need. Get it in there. Great. These are super easy brownies, not complicated. You only have like 6 ingredients, so that's pretty great. And they will come out fudgy and delicious. Pickle, that was the guy you saw at the beginning of the video. He says they're some of the best brownies I've ever made. So they're easy and awesome. This is about a half a cup of flour. Okay. And you're just going to mix that in. Don't over mix, okay? When you get flour in there, you want to make sure it just gets mixed in. You don't want to mix the crap out of it or anything like that. You just want to get it so that it's in there, all incorporated, it's all together, and then stop mixing, okay? If you over mix some kinds of batter and things, you end up with a much tougher product. So you don't really want super tough brownies. Nobody wants that. We want nice, delicious, chewy brownies with that fudgy texture. Okay, so as soon as you have it all mixed together, stop mixing. Now, this is the fun part. That was my oven being preheated. This is where you get to add whatever you want to make it more exciting for you. You can add nuts, you can add chocolate chips, you can add peanut butter chips, anything you want. And I like to switch it up. So today I'm going to add about a half a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. And listen, I do not measure out chocolate chips pretty much ever. I think you should measure that with your heart. So you just dump in whatever you think, okay? So these are mini chocolate chips just because that's what I have around, okay? So I just dump it in until you feel good about it. And then I'm going to add some peanut butter chocolate chips because we like peanut butter in this house. Okay, so I'm going to dump them in. All right, that looks good. Okay, and then you're just gonna stir it just 1 or 2 times around till it gets all in there. Okay. Now this recipe is going to fill an 8x8 pan. So that's one of those square ones. Okay, I'm going to show it to you here in a second. And if you want to double it, you can easily put it in a 9x13. A 9x13 is a pan that is like those long rectangular shaped pans that sometimes people make cake in or something like that. We only made the small batch today, but normally I double it. I always make extra because I like to share my baked goods with everyone. So if you have a big family or you have someone that you're going to drop some off for, maybe a friend or a relative that you want to cheer them up and just drop some off on their doorstep, this would be great. And like I said, just double everything. So that's easy. These are easy. So we're ready to put them in our pan. Now I personally prefer to line my pan with parchment paper. So I just take parchment paper, rip it off so it's about the same size as the dish, and then push it down inside. The reason I prefer using parchment paper as opposed to just spraying the pan with like Pam spray is because when the brownies come out of the oven and they're cooling, I can, after they've cooled for a while, just take the edges of the parchment paper and lift the whole thing up and sit it down. This makes them easier to ice, easier to cut, easier to get them out. You know how sometimes you're like digging them out and it's a mess, and this makes all of that so much easier. So if you have any parchment paper, I would use that. If you don't, just spray the pan, it'll be fine. And be careful if you're going to use parchment paper, that you don't accidentally use wax paper. You can't put wax paper in the oven. That would be very bad. Okay, so I'm going to put our batter into our pan, and then we're going to stick it in the oven. Okay, my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. Okay, so that's plenty warm enough to get these things baked up for you. You can see how thick and gooey our batter is. That is going to make a nice gooey, fudgy brownie. Get everything out of that bowl. You don't want to waste it. Now, if you're like me, you might have a person hanging around, or maybe that person is you, who likes to lick out the bowl. If that's the case, I suppose you can accidentally leave a little in the bowl for them. Okay, but I can guarantee you that when we go off the air, someone is going to be licking out that bowl and licking off of my scraper. Okay. All right, so just move it around in there so that you have the whole bottom covered and that it's pretty even. Okay. There we go. All right, excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right, so we're ready. Now we're just going to take it and put it in the oven for 20 minutes. Now, after 20 minutes, you're going to check them. You don't want to overcook them or they're going to be dry and cakey. We don't want dry, well, most of us don't want dry, cakey brownies. We want fudgy brownies. That's why they're brownies and not cake. So after 20 minutes, check them. And if they have that nice brownie looking crust on the top, you can pull them out, okay? If they need another minute or two, do that, but they really shouldn't need any more than that, okay? So we're gonna pop these in the oven, and after that, we're gonna make some peanut butter icing to go on top of them, because why not, right?